On in San Francisco for the man known as the Zodiac Killer.
There could be a serial killer in Chicago.
The Oakland County child killer.
Phantom killer.
Frankfurt slasher.
4 children have now been murdered.
Has killed 5, says he's going to kill again.
15 brutally murdered young women.
The pattern is the same.
One by one, the death count started rising.
A man in a mask robbed, tied, and stabbed them.
Strangled, stuffed in burlap bags.
It is highly unlikely that these women were murdered by separate men.
Where will the killer strike next?
Police can't answer who or why.
That's the question.
Yeah, man. Hello. Happy Friday. My name is 12 Gauge. Welcome to my channel, 12 Gauge Investigative. If you're looking for a good time, well, guess what? You just found it. I hope everybody's had a wonderful week. You know, this week has been kind of long, kind of drawn out. But you know what? We're ready for the weekend. So tonight we're going to talk about a delicate subject. We're going to talk about something that a lot of people don't really like to discuss, and sometimes they're a little I don't know what the word is, taboo. So we're not talking about strangers in the dark. We're not talking about someone lurking in an alley. We're talking about people you trust. You know, have you ever had those moments where you feel like somebody is saying or doing something that you believe they're trying to get you to do something against your will? People you wave to, people you leave your kids with, people who blend in perfectly. We've all seen those type of people, right? This is not fear-based content. This is awareness. Because grooming doesn't start with harm. It starts with kindness, attention, trust. And by the time you realize what's happening, it's already too late. Thank you, everybody, for being here tonight. And we're going to expose the patterns, the psychology, and the real cases behind grooming behavior. Because the truth is, it's closer than we all believe. We can't bury our heads in the sand anymore. You know, I ask you, what is grooming really? Many people think they know, but tonight we're going to strip this down to the truth. Grooming is not random. It is a calculated, strategic, and patient. Grooming is a process where someone builds trust with a target, often a child, a teenager, or a vulnerable person, with the intent to manipulate, exploit, or to control them. This is not impulsive behavior. This is long-term planning. So you ask me, Gage, what the hell are you talking about? Grooming. What is that? Does that mean you just groom your hair? You know, you're making sure you look good? No, that's not what we're talking about tonight. Because these 5 stages of grooming, you're going to realize sometimes they're right under your nose. You know, the other day I did a video It was a premiere, and I don't know if very many people saw it, but there was a lot of interesting information in that short video. The first thing that a groomer does is they target the victim. And that sounds just as harsh as it really is. Targeting somebody means that you have drawn a circle around that person and they're going to be your victim no matter what. Lonely people, somebody that needs attention, or somebody that has or lacking a strong support system. They don't pick the strongest voice in the room. Why not? Because that would be too difficult of a person to sit there and control. Just like what we just said. They want somebody to control, somebody that they can, maneuver into being what they want them to be. Pick the quiet ones. They gain your trust. They befriend your family. They become overly helpful. They, maybe you have a neighbor that's overly kind, wants to help out around your house. They target the single mother who lacks the adult to be able to help around the house. So maybe this groomer has the intent on harming one of the children, so he becomes that helpful neighbor. They position themselves as a safe person to be around. There's no way so and so would harm our kids. He's such a great role model. He's such a great leader. That's where you're mistaken. Because they just don't groom the victim, they groom the environment. They feel a need for emotional support. They may give gifts to you. They validate your feelings. They become the person the victim feels they can't lose in their lives. They isolate. They might even pull away this person from their friends or family. They create a secret environment that's just for you and I. This is where control starts replacing connection. They decentralize and they control. So what does that mean? They push boundaries. They see where they can go with not only family members, not only the people they're trying to groom, but everybody around them. They're trying to desensitize them so it lowers the inhibition so this person can push those boundaries to see how far they can go. They manipulate the environment. They might use guilty tactics to even get their way. And by the time we get to this stage, the victim often feels responsible, confused, or trapped. Oh, excuse me. I can't go against so and so because, he's such a good guy. Mom likes him. My siblings like him, but he's tried to touch me. He's tried to, you know, get me to do things in secret. He's bought me gifts. He's taken me here. He's taken me there. He's given me money. They feel responsible. They feel confused or they feel trapped. And these are some signs that people often miss. And here's the uncomfortable truth, everyone. Most grooming situations don't look dangerous at first. Here's some red flags in adults. They're just really good with the kids. They give special attention to one individual. They offer rides, gifts, private time. They're overly involved in personal lives. They create inside secrets that only the groomer and the individual they're grooming know about. We can't tell anybody this is our special secret. If someone needs secrecy to maintain a relationship, that's not a relationship, that's control. Remember that. If somebody needs secrecy to maintain a relationship, that's not a relationship, that's control. Sorry about that, y'all. Here's the red flags, the victims. They may suddenly change their behaviors. They may suddenly become withdrawn or secretive. They might have new gifts all of a sudden. Maybe they have money where they didn't have money before. You ask, who's giving you the money? Well, the kind neighbor across the street, my coach, my teacher, the bus driver, anyone, Susie's dad, anyone. Emotional dependency on one adult. They feel like this one person is the only person who they can have the emotional dependency on. Let's talk about Larry Nassar. He was a USA gymnastics doctor. For years, he wasn't questioned. He was trusted. He was celebrated. He was protected. He used his position as a doctor. He gained the trust of athletes and families. He normalized inappropriate behavior under treatment. This wasn't hidden in the shadows. This was happening in plain sight. And what do I always tell you guys? What's the easiest way to get away with something? In plain sight. Right in the open. You know, people are not going to suspect you, but they should because it's happening right there in plain sight. One key takeaway that you should get is authority does not equal safety. So just because you're with an authority figure does not always mean that you're in safe hands, in good hands. I don't know if you've ever heard of Jerry Sandusky, the Penn State. He was a coach. He was a respected coach, a mentor, a role model. He targeted vulnerable boys through charity work. He built trust with families. He used his status to avoid suspicion. And when someone is seen as too good to question, that's when questioning matters the most. And now let's talk a little bit about online grooming. These are general things that happen every day. And people don't believe it. Now let's talk about today because grooming has evolved, okay? Because we talk about online stuff. We've heard multitudes of individuals being groomed. Online gaming, by video games, by multitudes of, even that popular Discord. Predators use that to groom their victims. Almost all social media is not safe for young adults. It starts on social media or gaming platforms and builds emotional connection. Move to private messaging because what did we say? The groomer always wants to isolate the person, get them away from protection to show them, hey, I'm all you need. I'll listen to you. I'll be there for you. I'll help you through the tough times. I'll be there. So they start private messaging. They introduce the secrecy. They might apply the pressure or the manipulation to their target. They don't show up as threats. No. That's where we get it wrong. We think that, we tell our kids, we tell our nieces, nephews, grandkids, we tell them all, stranger danger, do not talk to strangers. But these people don't show up as strangers. They show up in the multitude where they're trustworthy, they're loyal, they're kind. They're always there to listen when the kid or whoever is having a bad day. It could be anybody. Since we're talking about children tonight, it could be anybody. Anybody can be groomed. They show up as someone who understands you, somebody who tells you outright, I know how you feel, I've been there. In the words of a recent case that I've done, I was a 14-year-old boy in the South, didn't have very many people to talk to. Sound familiar? Showed that understanding toward their victim. A teacher, a coach, we see it every day on YouTube. Teacher arrested for inappropriate relations with a student. Teacher sending nudes to student. Teachers, excuse me, teachers having all these things that at one point wasn't an issue back when most of us were in school. These cases happen more than people want to admit. Some of the patterns that we see, extra help after class, private communication. A lot of times these students are text messaging these teachers, or they're on Snapchat, or they're on, once again, these social media apps where they form a secret bond, and before long, boundaries are crossed. Trust is broken because it starts by trusting the person enough to engage with them, and then the perpetrator or the predator breaks the trust of everyone around once they're found out, right? There's an emotional dependency upon this dynamic. They gradually boundary cross, well, why don't you stay after school? Help me out. Help me move my, furniture. Help me do this. Help me do that. The line doesn't get crossed all at once. Maybe it might be a gradual pat on the back, rubbing of the shoulder, whatever it might start off innocent, right? It gets erased slowly. So why do you think that happened like that? I don't know. Those of you in the chat, why do you think it's so easy for this not to happen all at once, but over time, it cultivates into something very disturbing? Y'all give me your thoughts in the chat, because I know there's not very many of you, but I'd like to hear from you. Let me know what you think so far since I've outlined this for you. I know some of you are in here. So while we're waiting for that, let's talk about how this is where it gets deeper, okay? Why grooming works. Because we as humans, we're wired for connection. We're wired to be sociable. We're wired to be a part of, not apart from. So trust lowers defenses. I trust you, so that means you must be a good person. But, in all reality, trust must be earned. It just sometimes people give it without it being earned. There's a gradual escalation to avoid detection. So I'm going to show you a video here in a minute. It's quite disturbing, but I'm going to show you the video of this individual that talks about his grooming tactics. And it's everything that I just talked about here. But you're going to look at him and you're going to think, well, he doesn't look like one of those people that many people talk about as being as creepy or, dirty old man, whatever, or maybe he does. But he has such a convincing multitude of words that he's able to get around you suspecting him because he gives that, oh shucks, I'm just your friend. So gradual escalation avoids detection. What did I say again? It happens in plain sight. These people are not hiding it. They are not hiding it. It's happening in plain sight, meaning that the more that you suspect something, if your spidey sense goes off and you think, well, that's a little odd, that's a little weird, don't discount that. We don't need to be overly paranoid when it comes to this, but we can't be naive about it either. And it can happen with anybody. It can happen with older people being groomed to be taking all their money from them. I mean, there's multitudes of situations. It's not always sexual. People groom for different reasons. Like this says, it's a gradual escalation which avoid detection. So if you're gradually, befriending an older woman and, you start giving her the sob story, well, I can't pay my bills, so she gives you the money. I can't do this, or I love you, or this and that, and you develop that void filler in her life, she almost feels as an obligation of thanks to give you the money. And multitudes of elderly people get taken advantage of every day by this. If something bad happens instantly, people react, right? If something happens slowly, people adapt. Once again, if something happens rapidly, people react. If it happens slowly, people adapt. Here's some manipulation tactics that when you're grooming a younger person, if you hear these things, you might look out and ask yourself, I'm not paranoid. I heard what I heard. You're mature for your age. No one understands you like I do. This is our little secret. These aren't compliments, they're tools. Once again, these are not compliments. These are a groomer's tools. This isn't about fear. Once again, I don't want you to be fearful of it. I want you to be aware of it. Because we all live in this world and we all must be aware of everything that goes on around us. Once again, I'm not trying to make people paranoid or overly, you know, cautious, but there's a lot of individuals that they target you for any reason. What protects people is to have open communication with multitudes of individuals in your life. You teach your grandkids, you teach your children, you teach your niece, nephews, your mothers, your fathers, whoever, because as they age, their inhibitions get lower. They're friendly with people. They trust openly because they believe that nobody's out to harm them because they're elderly, or even the children in their lives, the young adults, the women that are recently widowed, or women that are easily lonely, live alone, whatever, could be a target. Have a no secrets rule. This is for the children. No secrets. If you're playing a video game and somebody approaches you and wants you to go have private messages, don't do not tell me. Always be aware of your boundaries. Question that special treatment. How come Uncle Jeffrey always wants just little Jimmy to go when everybody else gets left behind? How come Uncle Kenneth wants little Becky to only go, or little Becky to spend the night while the other kids stay behind? They always get new clothes. They always get ice cream while everybody else gets candy. Safe adults don't need secrecy, y'all. Once again, I'm going to say it loud and proud for the ones in the back. Safe adults don't need secrecy. Secrecy means that you're trying to get away with something in plain sight. Safe relationships don't isolate. They don't need to isolate one person. And safe people don't rush trust. And this is for anybody, whether you're starting a new relationship, whether you've been in a marriage for a long time and you're starting to date again or whatever it might be. Think about what I've said tonight. Don't be groomed into something that you're not ready to do, because adults get groomed every day. You groom people, because you know what? Honestly, you teach people how to treat you. And you say, well, 12, how am I supposed to protect myself if I'm teaching somebody how to treat me? Well, you protect yourself because you don't allow yourself to become somebody else's victim. I'm going to play this video for you. I'm only playing it because, I said I don't like commentary on the video, but I'm only playing it because it's so disturbing to me. Listen to what this guy says. He's a convicted child predator. His name is Jack Reynolds. He describes how he groomed young boys. Listen to what he says.
Alone.
Grooming. I would check out their family situation. I would check out their clothing to see how well they were, financially. I would check out their social interaction with other kids, when we were on the ballparks.
So you see this man in the stand. You see him watching the young kids play baseball. He's already targeting, right? Are you going to question him as being a potential groomer? Any of you going to question this individual as being a potential groomer? Those of you in the chat, let me know. Would you instantly think, if he had a ball hat on or some glasses or whatever, would you be, and he came up, introduced themselves, and, was just talking to you and gained your trust and told your son or your grandson or your nephew or, how great of a game he played? Would you think anything of it if you saw him at the ballpark all the time? Let me know in the chat.
Or on the gym floor, you know, I would make sure which ones I wanted to molest. I would give them special attention, congratulate them, talk to them when I know that I would never be allowed to talk to anybody else, you know, aside from everybody. I would give them the attention that an official is not supposed to give anybody. And it made them feel like, wow, he's paying me attention. You know, it is a direct form of grooming.
Were there certain characteristics that you looked for in children before molesting them?
In children, yes, but more I also looked at their families. If I thought the father was a threat.
Okay, he said that twice now. He said that twice. I looked at the family. I looked at the family. How was the family dynamic? Was the child a loner? Was the family invested in him? Was there a father figure? He just said, was the father a threat? Is the father gonna put a stop to this guy, you know, talking to his son or being around his son?
I would not approach the child. If I thought that the child had friends that he would tell, I would not approach him. If I thought the child had friends that were in the same capacity he was, I would approach him. For the simple fact that if I could molest him, I could lure him into believing, grooming him into believing that he would enjoy it. And therefore, I could manipulate him into having his other friends come and be molested by me as well.
Did you hear what he just said? He would convince his victim that he was going to enjoy what he was going to do to him. And then if he convinced him to enjoy that and then isolate him, he might tell his friends about what he was having done to him and how he enjoyed it, so he would get more victims. I know it's a touchy subject, but you know what? It has to be discussed. It has to be investigated. We can't just close our eyes to these tough subjects and say, you know, we only talk about the rated G stuff. You know, PG sometimes we gotta say, you know, trigger word. No, no. You know what that does? That protects these people. It protects these people because you minimize the effect of what they're doing to our children, to our wives, to our grandmothers, to our mothers, all these people that might be groomed by a person and be harmed. We're minimizing that effect by giving it stupid little names where we can't even say the names. We minimize it and we, you know, give it acronyms and all this other stuff. No, you got to call it for what it is, because you know what? These people don't care. They don't care. Let's listen to what it gets worse.
So perhaps a child that doesn't really have a whole lot of friends, maybe not really a strong family, things like that.
Yes, no spiritual values, weak in education, you know, needs help in many ways, even from split parenting, you know, has a mother who may be having problems with the family, you know, well, here comes superhero in to help out, you know, wow, well, thank you very much. No problem. You ever need me to take them away for the night so you can have a night out? No problem. It works.
I don't know how you felt about that. I don't know how you feel about that. But it makes me sick. It makes me sick to think that there's actually people in this world who are that deliberate and that aware to be hunting the ones we love. Let me play another one. I played one that was pretty cool, but let me kind of give you this guy's perspective. I like I like this doctor right here. This guy has done some great work. And once again, I understand it's a tough subject, but it needs to be discussed.
When I first started meeting pedophiles and working with people who were genuinely pedophilic, I think it took about 2 weeks to grow the skin. And I tell all my students this, is that it takes time, not nearly as much time as one would think.
He said pedophilia is a psychiatric disorder characterized by a primary or exclusive sexual interest toward children. So listen to some of the characteristics that he gives after investigating these type of individuals for a while.
We give a person different kinds of tasks: verbal tasks, nonverbal tasks, spelling, reading, memory, ability to control their own thought patterns. We found several, very important things. The largest main one was IQ. It turned out that people who are sexually interested in children 10 to 15 IQ points lower than average. Then we had physical height, again, part of routine, medical checkups. People who were arrested for offenses against children were about 2.5 centimeters on average shorter than people who were arrested for sex offenses against adults. 2.5 centimeters in physiological terms is very, very large.
That is something right there. Think about that a little bit. If they're shorter in stature, doesn't that give them kind of like most children are short? It kind of gives them that relation toward the individual that they're grooming.
It's about double the effect that we would get if a woman smoked when she was pregnant. The next big one, handedness. Roughly, 10% of the population, 12% of the mainstream population is left-handed or non-right-handed technically. But it was about 30%, 35% of the pedophiles. The only other groups that have non-right-handedness rates that high are schizophrenics, bipolars, and people with autism. Whatever it is that's wrong, there has to be a piece in the brain, and whatever piece of that had to have been developmental.
It's interesting to me because y'all know I work with addiction, right? So every brain scan that I've ever looked at toward people with any kind of mental disorder, whether it be an addict, whether it be somebody who's on methamphetamine, whatever it might be, you notice a very distinctive change in the normal brain versus the brain that you're looking at, the person who had the affliction. Check these out.
We were looking at first really in the surface of the brain. The surface of the brain is composed of what we call gray matter. It's where the major differences are. It wasn't until a few days after that we found something that none of us thought. There were huge differences in white matter. And all sat, we're scratching out white matter. Nothing's ever in white matter. It's cabling tissue that puts the different parts of the brain work together. How could this possibly lead to pedophilia? It just made no sense to us. Then it was just one of those times, where a scientist gets lucky, which does not happen a lot. At my data, and I was pulling my hair, I could not make any sense of it. Put it down. Another stack of papers on my desk that I had to read. And all of a sudden, one explained the other, and it just all of a sudden made sense. Men, when they see somebody attractive, naturally widen their stance, their voice goes down a little bit. Women, when they see somebody attractive, start touching their hair, start accentuating their, all completely unconsciously. When we see a kid, our voices go up, we take on an avuncular turn. Oh, are you lost? Can I get you? Where's your mother? Instead of evoking the responses that come with perceiving a kid, It's as if it's cross-wired, and when it sees a kid or perceives a kid, it's triggering the sex response system instead of the parental nurturing system. A literal.
Did you hear what he said? He said it triggers the triggering response rather than the nurturing response that you would normally have toward a small child. Instead of seeing them as somebody that you love, you nurture, you care for, in a groomer, pedophilic mindset, to look at them as a target.
Cross-wiring. Nobody is in control of or no man is in control of whatever it is he's interested in or not interested in. I think just growing up gay made me naturally sympathetic to that story because, I grew up being interested in different things from everybody else. There do exist the psychopathic, it's very easy to call them evil. There is nothing we can do to help keep society safe except to keep these people out of society. They exist. But for the great majority of them, there's other pieces to the story. These are people for whom there's no reason to think that they did anything inappropriate, that they ever committed any kind of an offense, but they come into a psychologist with, Doc, I got a problem. They can't tell anyone, they can't tell their friends, they have no one to go to for support. There are many situations in which a mental health professional, psychologist, psychiatrist, whoever, is required to report this to protect society. But of course, the pedophiles are in society. They know that this is the regulation, and therefore they don't come in the first place. We should be creating situations where they can come in, remain anonymous, and receive sex drive reducing medications or counseling or group therapy or whatever is appropriate to the situation we're in.
Okay. I wish there was more people in the chat. I'm going to ask you guys in the chat if you're still here. Do you believe that there's any kind of rehabilitation towards this kind of affliction? Because if we're looking at it as something that somebody does this thing because it is an urge, then look at it totally different than we look at it. I'm asking that question. Do you believe that there's treatment? Kind of like with sex offenders, you believe that there's treatment? Rapists. Me? I've seen people change. I've seen people change. But doesn't mean that the urge ever goes away. You get what I'm saying? Because when you're dealing with that part of the brain, it's a pleasure thing. It's an urge. It's not something that is conscious. Damn, these glasses didn't want to fall off. You get what I mean? It's unconscious. Just like what we talk about sociopaths and psychopaths. We talk about killers. An unconscious desire to commit a crime, to them it's like their heart beating, waiting for the moment to get that emotional satisfaction, dopamine release, the serotonin release, all these type of things that occur whenever these individuals fulfill their fantasy. Thank you for that common sense. She said no. She doesn't believe that people can be rehabilitated. I don't know how you feel about it. I'm sorry to be eating while I'm on camera. I guess this is my on camera moment where I'm presenting whatever the hell I'm eating. These are Jolly Ranchers. But they're called Jelly Hearts. Cherry, strawberry, and watermelon. They're almost like jelly beans. So go get you a bag. So you don't believe that people can be rehabilitated when they have the affliction? That's interesting to know. It really is. I mean, there's a lot of people that have those beliefs, and that's neither here nor there about, how you feel about it. Because as a society, we get blindsided by people that we want to help. We get blindsided because we give them the opportunity, we give them counseling, we give them medication, we give them help. Then they burn us again. So it's hard to have that compassion. You get what I'm saying? It's difficult to have that compassion toward people because they burn you, they hurt you. So that's when the trust goes away. That's when you say, I can't trust you. But there's a lot of people that are broken mentally. They might function naturally, but they're broken mentally with their thoughts, their desires, their beliefs, their morals and values. It's kind of like when we talk about individuals that kill. That's a strong topic. Why did they do it? Why did they do it? We ask that question. Why? Why do people groom people to harm? It's almost the same type thing. There's killers that groom their victims to hurt them. How I was watching this story earlier about this female. Get this. She would meet these men on Facebook. She would add them as friends. She would instant message them, start talking, start conversation, gaining their trust. And then she would lure them to her house to help her, this one guy, to go get her cat. She was hungry. She didn't have any food. He brought her tacos. They went to go get a drink. Nothing bad happened the first couple times. So that gave that guy the sense of security that this female is okay, right? Well, on the third time he shows up, African American male came out with her. The guy sticks a gun to the Hispanic guy's head and tells them, we're going to the barbecue. So they go to the barbecue, they eat, they drink, they have a good time. He drops them off. Next time he shows up, those two come out again, but this time they beat him. They beat him a lot. And they take him out 20 miles past where he lived to this location. They sliced his throat, threw him in the water, and guess what? The guy lived. He stayed out in that water all night long, swam to a little island or a little patch of land. To the next morning, a boater saw him, gave him a ride to, where he could get help. He stumbled to a gas station, found a policeman, and had he not done that, he would have been dead. But this wasn't the first time that this couple had done this. They stole his vehicle. They had another guy, did the same type stuff. So you got to be very mindful when you're on dating sites, when you're on social media, when you're on gaming sites, when you're, I mean, because let's face it, a lot of people are lonely in this world. And to them, a beautiful or attractive woman hitting them up where they normally don't get that kind of attention, most of them are going to do just about anything to keep that connection. Especially if the woman is giving you compliments, this and that and the other. You know, it's not safe to be an adult either, to be groomed by another adult. Like I said, like I tell my clients all the time, you know what, just because you think it's safe to go over to a girl's house who you hardly even talk to, who you really don't know, who made fun of you or bullied you or whatever, then all of a sudden she wants to make nice and invite you over by yourself, there could be 3 guys there waiting for you to beat you up and hurt you really badly. That's the kind of world we live in. And you say, 12, that's just being paranoid. Call it what you want. I guess I've just heard and seen too much bad in the world that I'm not overly cautious or fearful. I just have a lot of respect for what's out there. You know what I'm saying? I have that respect that not everybody is out for my best interest. Not everybody is looking out for me. You know, they're, especially if they're wanting something. You know, I'm a middle-aged man now. So the older I get, the more target I become. As in society, this is how it's looked upon. The older you get, the more of a target you become for people who are looking to overpower you, steal your bank account, take your savings, your 401k, your money, all this stuff. We're being groomed on a daily basis, a multitude of people, and you have to be very vigilant, or you're going to get taken advantage of. Yeah, you're going to get taken care of also. I mean, let me give you this example. Let me ask this question of those people that are watching. Have you ever had somebody hack into your bank account and take your money without you even realizing it? Maybe you just went to the gas station, filled up. Next thing you know, you realize that there's all this money missing out of your account. Has it ever happened? Is that the same thing as grooming? No, but you were still a victim, right? And that is my point tonight. If you get nothing from this, I want you to be understanding that to be hyper vigilant, not only for the ones that you love, but for yourself as well. You know, there's people on these YouTube streets that are groomers. They groom their audiences. Maybe you don't get called beautiful anywhere, but in this chat room. And I call you beautiful. And I call you sexy. And I call you ma'am. And I call you endearing qualities. And I make a big deal every time that you come in the chat room. If I was monetized, all that dopamine release, you're going to say, well, 12's a nice guy. He really does know how to make me feel special. I don't feel special anywhere else but in this room, in the chat room. Let me give them $2.99. And you know what I've done? I've targeted that person. Now it's a mission to get not only $2.99. Let me see if I can get $5. Let me see if I can get $20. Let me see if I can get almost $1,000. Because there's no limit to super chats. You having my Cash App account, you having my Venmo, my PayPal, whatever it might be. You might not look at it that way, but I'm not monetized because YouTube thought that I broke a rule, right? So they punished me. I'm in punishment. I'm in timeout. But even when I'm able to get monetized again, I'm not going to do it. You shouldn't have to give me a dime for me to be on this platform. You know why? Because I choose to be here. If I can't afford the StreamYard $44.99, I need to use the free version. If I can't afford these lights, I can't afford the mic, I can't afford the mouse, I can't afford the internet. Why am I doing it? You know, when I first started, I got me a mic from the pawn shop because I didn't know a damn thing about YouTube channels and all this stuff. I would see them, but I had no clue. I was like, man, it must be a big production to be able to do this stuff. And I can't lie to you. I was like, I want to get some super chats too. I want to get some money too. Let's see if I can make some money. So I got me a little microphone from the pawn shop, and it did pretty well, you know. It did pretty well. And then I was like, I don't want this mic. So I bought me this one that I have currently. And I bought these lights, and I bought a new laptop, and I bought this and that and the other. I've spent more money than I've gotten while I've been a creator. And you know, I've gotten to this point where I've revamped my channel where I'm happy where I'm at, you know? It doesn't have to be about whether you believe I'm the most educated person on YouTube or whether you think I'm the dumbest person on YouTube. You know, I enjoy the people that come in here and talk to me, the people that are in the chat, the people that are watching from the sidelines. Because, you know, I don't groom people. I don't have a reason to get on YouTube for a desired effect. You know, I just do content just to do it because I enjoy it, you know? And I hope that you really understand that. When it comes to YouTube, be very mindful and careful, especially if you don't have the money to be spending in the chat room. Because guess what? Somebody gives a super chat, it gives you that dopamine release. You got to follow. Maybe you don't have that money to spend. Maybe that's your bingo money or whatever. But this person has made you laugh. This person has made you feel so good. He made you believe that he is your friend. He is your buddy. He has your best interest at heart. So you send them $3 every day. That's going to add up. I've been in chats where people have talked about not being able to afford their medicine, but they're giving the creator super chats. I've been in chats where the ladies have talked about being in radiation and cancer treatment, all this stuff, and they're still giving super chat. You get what I'm saying? There's groomers out there. I'm not gonna name any names. I'm not gonna give you anything about their show because you know what? I'm not the watchdog on YouTube. If you've been around for a while, you know who these people are. You spend your money how you want. Because for every person that talks logic, there are 10 people in these chats who want to battle and be contrarian toward your beliefs about reality. That is grooming behavior to get people away from the mainstream, to isolate them into almost a cult-like existence. That is grooming. To take you from creator to creator to creator to creator. No. Yeah, that's an interesting fact there, Walt. I'll be damn sure if I couldn't afford that, I wouldn't be cranking up all these lights and my laptop and everything. Wouldn't do it. Can I sit here and say I've never gave a super chat? I can't, because I've given a lot of super chats to a lot of different people who hate my guts now, who say bad stuff about me, and I've given them super chats in their channels. Not because I like them, but because I wanted to be kind, because I liked what they were doing. I liked the fact that they were, putting the information out there. And now these people just act like I don't even exist. Or if you mention my channel, or if you mention my name, they instantly want to throw some salt on it. That indeed is a grooming behavior. I'm the good guy. That's the one you need to watch out for. I'm just saying. These damn things are addictive. They're really good. Let me see if I can show you. You see that? They have little strawberry on the inside. They're really good. But, like I say all the time, you need to take care of yourself. Be mindful of somebody being too friendly, too clingy. Don't get me wrong, there's still nice people out there that do stuff for no reason other than they want to do it. It's when they get angry, when they get controlling, start doing these things, then you need to watch out. Step back a little bit. Protect yourself. Don't give people more than they deserve. And don't be so trusting. But the time has come for me to go. I hope that you have enjoyed this. My name is 12 Gauge, and this is my channel, 12 Gauge Investigative Podcast. I've hoped you enjoyed this. If you did, hit the like, share, and subscribe button. And do keep coming back. Hopefully we build up a good following. Not because I want a cult, not because I want you to believe as I do, but because you like what I talk about. You don't have to agree with it. You don't have to like me in order to hit the like button. You can just like what I talk about. That's what the like button is for. Not that you like me, but you like the presentation. You guys that are still my mods, thank you so much for being here. Holding it down. That means a lot to me. Much respect to both of you. Y'all have a wonderful weekend. Stay safe out there. Maestro, cue that music.
On in San Francisco for the man known as the Zodiac Killer.
There could be a serial killer in Chicago.
The Oakland County child killer, phantom killer.
Frankfurt slasher.
4 children have now been murdered.
Has killed 5, says he's going to kill again.
15 brutally murdered young women.
The pattern is the same.
One by one, the death count started rising.
A man in a mask robbed, tied, and stabbed them.
Strangled, stuffed in burlap bags.
It is highly unlikely that these women were murdered by separate men.
Where will the killer strike next?
Police can't answer who or why.
That's the question that we'll never know.